Good evening. The Middle East is no longer watching a war unfold. It is watching an empire unravel in real time. Iran, once the self-proclaimed untouchable fortress of the Islamic world, is being systematically dismantled, laboratory by laboratory, commander by commander, missile base by missile base. What started as a military confrontation has evolved into something far more dangerous for Tehran, an existential crisis of legitimacy, capability, and command. This is not just a war report. This is the anatomy of a regime under collapse. In the pre-dawn hours of day 22, Israeli forces carried out one of the most strategically significant strikes of this entire campaign. One that barely made headlines in mainstream Western media, but sends enormous shockwaves through the intelligence community. Two senior scientists leading Iran's secret electromagnetic project were eliminated in precision strikes inside Tehran. Simultaneously, a component production laboratory at Malik Ashta University, a facility long suspected of dual-use military research, was destroyed. The IDF confirmed the site was actively producing components tied to nuclear weapons development and other advanced warfare systems. Now, let's pause here and understand what an electromagnetic project actually means in a warfare context. This is not science fiction. Electromagnetic pulse, EMP, weapons, or systems designed to disrupt and black out critical infrastructure, power grids, communication networks, hospital systems, military command centers, represent one of the most feared categories of strategic weapons. A successful EMP strike on Israel could, in theory, do what hundreds of ballistic missiles have failed to do: bring the country to its knees without a single explosion in the conventional sense. Israel didn't just stumble upon this program. According to reports, Israeli intelligence tracked these scientists for several days before executing the strike. That level of precision surveillance inside the Iranian capital, a city under wartime security lockdown, speaks volumes about the depth of Israeli intelligence penetration inside Iran. The analytical takeaway here is profound. Israel is no longer just reacting to Iranian fire. It is systematically cutting off Iran's future capabilities before they ever reach operational status. The target bank being built in Israeli military planning rooms now extends beyond enrichment sites and missile bases. It reaches into the very technological supply chain that feeds Iran's war machine. While Israel operated inside Tehran, American forces struck the Natanz enrichment facility again. This is not the first hit on Natanz in this conflict, and the pattern is becoming unmistakably deliberate. According to reports, for underground systems at Natanz were targeted by heavy American bombers. The International Atomic Energy Agency confirmed no increase in radiation levels was detected, a critical detail that Washington has been careful to emphasize with each strike, managing the narrative of responsible military action while still delivering devastating blows to Iran's nuclear ambitions. Here is the geopolitical significance that often gets lost in the day-to-day reporting. The United States is directly striking the nuclear heart of a sovereign nation, not through proxies, not through covert sabotage alone, through open military force. This represents a threshold crossing in American foreign policy that will define the post-war Middle East order for decades. The focus on deep underground infrastructure, the tunnels, the junctions, the hardened bunkers, tells us that American planners are not interested in symbolic strikes. They are going after the irreplaceable machinery. Centrifuges can be rebuilt. The specialized tunneling and reinforcement infrastructure, the blast-proof chambers, these take years and billions of dollars to reconstruct. Every tunnel entrance destroyed is potentially years of Iranian nuclear progress erased. Satellite imagery analysis has now confirmed a staggering picture of the damage inflicted on Iran's missile infrastructure over 22 days of conflict. 32 missile bases, the majority of them underground, have been struck in combined American and Israeli operations. Of these, at least 15 launchers have been confirmed destroyed. Strikes were precisely aimed at tunnel entrances, junction points, and above-ground support structures, the choke points that prevent Iran from moving its launchers out of what military planners call missile cities. The effect has been measurable and dramatic. Iran's ability to launch at high tempo, the kind of sustained barrage that could overwhelm Israeli and American missile defense systems, has been significantly degraded. But here is where the analysis gets nuanced and important. Iran has adapted. Facing the destruction of Western launch sites, Tehran has shifted operations eastward and towards central Iran. The launches are now coming from deeper, less convenient, more geographically complex terrain. This matters because it adds travel time, complexity of targeting, and logistical strain to every Iranian launch operation. Furthermore, and this is critical to understand, Iran has shifted from large conventional warheads, some exceeding 500 kilograms of explosive payload, to cluster munitions. This is not an upgrade. It is a tactical pivot born of necessity and desperation. Cluster munitions, weapons that split into dozens of smaller submunitions, are being used not because they are more powerful, but because they are harder to intercept. Israel's Iron Dome and David's Sling systems are extraordinarily effective against single large warheads. Against a cloud of small, fast-falling submunitions dispersing at altitude, interception becomes geometrically more complex. The attack on Dimona in southern Israel, a location adjacent to Israel's undeclared but widely acknowledged nuclear research facility, wounded over 50 people, including one child critically. The choice of target was not random. Iran is attempting, through imprecise cluster fire, to hit something it cannot hit precisely. It is throwing fragments at a target it can no longer reach cleanly. That is the picture of a military machine under severe stress. Perhaps the single most alarming development of Day 22 was the revelation that Iran launched 2 ballistic missiles toward Diego Garcia, the joint American-British strategic base located in the Indian Ocean, approximately 4,000 kilometers from Iranian territory. One missile failed mid-flight. The second was engaged by an American SM-3 interceptor. The base was not struck. But that is almost secondary to the revelation itself. Iran's previously stated operational ballistic missile range was approximately 2,000 kilometers. What the Diego Garcia launch demonstrated is a range capability of at least double that figure, roughly 4,000 kilometers. To put that in geographic perspective, a missile fired from Iranian territory at that range could reach Finland. It could reach deep into Central Europe. It can cover the entire Persian Gulf, the Arabian Sea, the Indian Ocean approaches, and well into the African continent. This is a significant intelligence failure or a significant intelligence update. Whether Iran deliberately concealed this capability or whether the development was underestimated, the consequence is the same. The threat perimeter around Iran has just expanded dramatically on a global map. The strategic message of the Diego Garcia launch was layered. On the surface, it was a response to Britain's decision to grant the United States expanded access to British bases for operations related to protecting shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's response was immediate and pointed. If you open your bases to operations against us, no base is safe. But at a deeper level, this launch was a demonstration intended for every country in the region and beyond. It was Iran telling Gulf states, European allies, and American forward-deployed forces, our reach is longer than you calculated. Factor that into your decisions. The analysis here cuts both ways. On one hand, this demonstrates a capability. On the other hand, launching 2 missiles at a target 4,000 kilometers away and hitting nothing suggests that at extended ranges, Iranian precision guidance systems may not be mature enough for reliable targeting. Range without accuracy is a blunt instrument. One of the most consequential unanswered questions of this war is deceptively simple. Who is actually in command of Iran? The new supreme leader reportedly survived the opening strikes of this conflict, but has not appeared publicly, not even for Nowruz, the Persian New Year, a holiday with deep cultural and symbolic significance that no Iranian leader would traditionally miss. His absence has been glaring, and his physical and cognitive condition remains unclear. American and Israeli intelligence assessments indicate he is alive, but the vacuum created by his absence, combined with the elimination of Ali Larijani and a string of Revolutionary Guards commanders, has produced something genuinely unprecedented in the history of the Islamic Republic, a decentralized, fragmented command structure operating under conditions of fear and uncertainty. Iran has reportedly divvied up its territory into approximately 31 regional commands, each with a local commander controlling ballistic launch operations in that zone with a predetermined target list. This is not how a confident, functioning military hierarchy operates. This is how an organization operates when it fears that centralized command and control has become a liability, because centralized command can be decapitated. The optics have not been kind to the regime. President Masoud Pezeshkian's holiday video, filmed in what appeared to be an improvised room with blankets covering the walls and a doll visible on the table, went viral on Iranian social media not as a message of strength, but as a symbol of governmental humiliation. Iranians themselves mocked it. The image of a head of state filming from what looked like a hiding spot does not project control. It projects fear. And then, after 3 weeks of silence, a written statement appeared attributed to Ismail Qani, commander of the Quds force, the man whose disappearance had fueled endless speculation. The statement promised that the front of truth will continue. No video, no public appearance, just words on a screen. Rather than restoring confidence, this statement underscored the point. When a senior commander of that stature can only communicate through a written message from an unknown location after 3 weeks of war, it tells you more about the regime's condition than any battle damage assessment ever could. In a significant policy reversal that reshaped the diplomatic landscape, Britain approved expanded American use of its military bases for operations related to protecting shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. This was not a small decision. For weeks, London had navigated a careful line, supportive of American objectives in principle, but cautious about formal involvement that would make British assets explicit targets of Iranian retaliation. That caution apparently yielded to American pressure, heavy pressure, according to reports, and the decision was made. Iran's response came almost immediately. Tehran warned that Britain was endangering British lives. And then, within hours, the Diego Garcia missiles were launched. The message was unmistakable in its directness. The British decision matters beyond the bilateral dynamic. It signals that the coalition supporting American military operations against Iran is quietly expanding. Saudi Arabia expanded American access to the Taif base, significantly increasing American logistical depth in the region. Bahrain joined an international declaration supporting safe passage through Hormuz. Gulf states, long paranoid about publicly aligning against their large neighbor, are making cautious but unmistakable moves toward the American-Israeli operational posture. This is Iran's nightmare scenario, not a direct military defeat alone, but a regional isolation that strips away the ambiguity that has historically protected it from unified response. Iran has repeatedly threatened to activate the Houthis in Yemen if the United States moves toward a ground operation against Kharg Island, Iran's critical oil export terminal in the Persian Gulf. The serious analytical question is this a real threat or a negotiating posture? The honest answer is both, and that distinction matters enormously for policy. The Houthis have demonstrated, over years of conflict in Yemen and their Red Sea campaign, that they are willing to absorb extraordinary punishment and continue operating. They have ballistic missile capabilities, drone swarms, and anti-ship missiles. They have disrupted global shipping through the Red Sea before, and they can do it again. At the same time, American and Israeli strikes over the past year have significantly degraded Houthi capabilities. Their command structure, while more resilient than most, has taken serious hits. They are not the force they were 12 months ago. But the most chilling data point revealed on day 22 concerns not their military capability, but their methods. Reports confirmed that thousands of African migrants, people seeking safety and opportunity, crossing Yemen en route to elsewhere, have been forcibly recruited or coerced into serving as fighters on Houthi front lines. This is not the behavior of an organization constrained by international norms or basic human dignity. This is the behavior of a desperate organization willing to use human beings as consumable battlefield resources. When you understand that, the threat calculus changes. An organization capable of enslaving refugees for combat is an organization without meaningful ethical limits. That makes them simultaneously less predictable and more dangerous. On Israel's northern front, Hezbollah attempted to exploit heavy cloud cover and low visibility to increase rocket, missile, and drone fire toward northern Israeli communities, including Kiryat Shmona, Fazuda, Katzrin, and the western Galilee region. 5 drones launched under cloud cover, following terrain-hugging flight paths through valleys and streams in the Tyre area, were intercepted. All 5. The IDF had adjusted its detection deployment and learned Hezbollah's preferred evasion routes, neutralizing the tactical advantage the organization thought it had developed. This is the micro-level version of a macro-level story, adaptation and counter-adaptation in real time. Hezbollah innovates. Israel studies. Israel counters. Hezbollah studies again. What makes Hezbollah's situation particularly concerning in the longer term is the reported deployment of approximately 100 Iranian Revolutionary Guards officers to Lebanon following the November 2024 ceasefire. These are not advisors in any gentle sense. They are architects of a rebuilt organizational structure, shifting Hezbollah from its traditional centralized hierarchy toward a decentralized, compartmentalized cell model that is inherently more resilient to leadership decapitation. Hezbollah today is not as strong as it was before Israel's devastating campaign against it. But it is rebuilding along lines designed specifically to survive the kind of targeted elimination strategy that broke it last time. Strip away the daily strike counts, the missile intercept percentages, and the diplomatic maneuvering, and you are left with a conflict that is fundamentally about one question. Can the current Iranian regime survive this? Not militarily. That answer is already becoming clear. Iran cannot militarily defeat the combined force of Israel and the United States. Its missile forces are being degraded. Its nuclear program is being struck. Its command structure is fragmented and fearful. Its proxy network is under pressure from multiple directions simultaneously. The real question is whether the economic, political, and social pressure building inside Iran, visible even in the mocking of the president's blanket-covered video room, visible in the absence of the supreme leader from public life, visible in the desperate cluster bomb strikes at sites Iran cannot actually hit precisely, will translate into something that changes the regime itself. That is the question that will define not just the outcome of this war, but the shape of the Middle East for the generation that follows it. What is clear on day 22 is this. The Iranian regime is still standing, but it is more exposed, more decentralized, more isolated, and more pressured than it was even a week ago. The infrastructure of its power, the missiles, the laboratories, the tunnels, the command chains, the scientists' replacements is being systematically dismantled. The campaign has moved from attrition to architecture, and the architecture of Iranian deterrence is crumbling, one precision strike at a time.